He says invest in Africa, but he's living in Atlanta, driving a Tesla, and just got arrested for a suspended license. You won't believe the truth behind his so-called Pan-African mission. Stay tuned. I've been part of the Pan-African community for about a decade now, long before I even dipped my toes into YouTube. Back then, I was living in Poland, juggling medical school, while simultaneously connecting with the African diaspora in my city. I didn't just attend events casually, I immersed myself in them. I found myself at Africa Day celebrations, Nigerian independence events, cultural festivals, and community gatherings, moments where you could feel the heartbeat of the diaspora even in a city thousands of miles away from the continent. These experiences weren't just social, they were formative. They shaped my understanding of what it means to identify with Africa while living outside of it, and they helped me develop a perspective on the Pan-African ethos that I still carry today. Even in 2017, when social media was already beginning to play a massive role in connecting diaspora communities, I was physically present in these spaces, witnessing firsthand the dynamics of cultural pride, unity, and, occasionally, tension. Over time, what struck me the most was a recurring and, frankly, disheartening pattern in the community. There's this constant chatter about going back to Africa, almost as if it is a mantra, a dream that every conversation must reference. It comes up everywhere, in casual discussions, online debates, and even in organized events. The rhetoric is powerful, almost hypnotic in its appeal. Return to your roots, invest in Africa, build the future of the continent. These are phrases that resonate deeply with the hopes of many in the diaspora. Yet, when you scratch beneath the surface, it becomes evident that most of those voices advocating for this return aren't actually living on the continent. Many have never stayed for more than a few weeks or months. Their interaction with Africa is filtered through Instagram posts, secondhand stories, or the occasional visit that is more tourist than transformative experience. It's almost as if the idea of Africa exists more in conversation, in theory and imagination, than in reality. The continent becomes a symbol, an abstract concept that's easier to idealize than to engage with directly. This observation led me to a broader and, frankly, more sobering realization. In many cases, words and actions in the Pan-African community rarely align. It's one thing to speak passionately about responsibility, heritage, and accountability. It's another to live those principles in daily life, to make tangible contributions that match the grandeur of one's rhetoric. The gap between speech and action is, in my experience, surprisingly wide. And in this context, no one embodies this contradiction more flagrantly than Akon. Akon has been a lightning rod in the community, not just for his music, but for the sheer audacity of his contradictions. On one hand, he speaks eloquently about the need for Africans in the diaspora to invest back in the continent, to embrace their roots, and to support African development. On the other, his own actions, when scrutinized, reveal a pattern of irresponsibility and unmet promises that are difficult to reconcile with the grand narratives he promotes.
Late to this, but did y'all hear about Akon getting arrested for having a suspended license? Yeah, he was like 6 hours in a holding tank. This whole time, I'm thinking he's living in Senegal in his futuristic city, and you know where he's living at? ATL, Atlanta, Georgia. How much he be talking about? Oh, invest in Africa. Africa is the future. How come you not living in the future then? If Africa is the future, how come you not living in the future, right? And you driving a Tesla truck. Then Africans create some kind of EV vehicle, electric vehicle, and you go support Elon Musk. And you talking all this gibberish about, yeah, invest in Africa. It's the future, my brother. Invest in Africa. This whole time you driving Elon Musk truck. This whole time you living in ATL. Where are you at? Why are you not in Senegal? Why are you not living in the future?
Consider his ventures, for example. Akon has repeatedly spoken about ambitious projects in Africa, real estate, investment opportunities, and initiatives meant to transform communities. Yet, when these projects are examined, the results often fall far short of expectations. Buildings that were supposed to rise into thriving centers of commerce remain incomplete. Projects that were meant to benefit entire regions end up as isolated structures, symbolic rather than functional. When confronted about delays or failures, excuses are readily deployed. The pandemic, government bureaucracy, economic instability, or even foreign interference. Rarely, if ever, is there full ownership of responsibility. It's as if the act of speaking about Africa carries more weight than actually engaging with it, and as if accountability is a concept that exists only in theory rather than practice. The consequences of this disconnect are significant, not just for Akon, but for the broader Pan-African community. People invest hope, resources, and even financial capital into ventures that may never materialize. Trust is eroded, not only in individual projects, but in the ethos of diaspora involvement itself. When individuals speak of unity, responsibility, and building the future of Africa, but fail to uphold those principles in practice, it fosters cynicism. It makes people question whether the ideals of the Pan-African movement are achievable or whether they are perpetually undermined by those who claim to champion them. This pattern is compounded by the personal behavior of some of these figures. Akon's controversies, including legal troubles, financial mismanagement, and interpersonal conflicts, further complicate the narrative. Actions that seem mundane, like having a suspended license, become emblematic of deeper irresponsibility when juxtaposed with public declarations of Pan-African commitment. Personal failures bleed into professional credibility, and the community suffers because the disconnect between word and deed is so visible. It's not simply a matter of private life spilling into the public sphere. It is a demonstration of the broader principle that one cannot convincingly advocate for systemic responsibility without first demonstrating it personally. The discussion also raises questions about the nature of diaspora engagement itself. Many in the community advocate passionately for Africa while remaining physically, economically, and socially rooted in the West. This is not inherently problematic. There is value in transnational connections, and diaspora involvement can take many forms. But when advocacy exists in isolation from practical engagement, when it becomes performative, symbolic, or opportunistic, it risks undermining its own legitimacy. Statements about returning to Africa or building infrastructure can become more about personal branding than genuine commitment. The contrast between rhetoric and reality is stark, and it highlights the difficulty of translating cultural pride and ethical ideals into tangible outcomes. At the same time, this observation is not meant to paint the entire Pan-African community with a single brush. There are countless individuals and organizations that demonstrate genuine dedication, accountability, and impact. What is critical is recognizing the disparity between aspirational rhetoric and lived action. The lessons are manifold. For those in the diaspora, it is a call to approach engagement with humility and realism. For leaders and influencers, it is a reminder that credibility is earned through consistent action, not just eloquence. And for the community as a whole, it is a reminder that ideals must be grounded in reality if they are to be meaningful. In reflecting on my own experiences, from attending cultural events in Poland to engaging with African communities online, I have come to appreciate both the promise and the pitfalls of Pan-Africanism. The vision is inspiring, the narrative compelling, and the potential transformative. But it requires more than words. It requires accountability, consistency, and an honest reckoning with the challenges of both diaspora and continental life. Without these, even the most passionate voices risk becoming hollow echoes, celebrated in conversation but absent in impact. Ultimately, the story of Akon serves as a cautionary tale. It is not merely about one individual's failures or contradictions. It is illustrative of a broader dynamic within the Pan-African community. Passion, pride, and vision are essential, but they must be accompanied by tangible action, ethical consistency, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. Otherwise, the chasm between what is preached and what is practiced will continue to widen, and the promise of a truly engaged, responsible, and effective Pan-African community will remain unrealized. Shout out to Donnie from Time Out because he brought up something about Akon that really needs clarification. Let's be clear, Akon got arrested for driving with a suspended license. Meanwhile, he's out here preaching about going back to Africa, investing in the continent, and building projects. Oh, and let's not forget his divorce and refusal to pay spousal support. Yet when you look at his so-called African project, what do you actually see? In Inon City, all that's been built is this one building. Sure, it looks futuristic, but compared to the promises, it's a massive letdown. When asked about it in an interview, Akon blamed the pandemic, saying everything was delayed by 2 years. And, true to form, he layered on the excuses the economy, the government, white men. Anything to avoid taking responsibility. Classic African grifter energy. Here's the irony. Many of these YouTubers, including Akon, constantly criticize Black Americans for disrespecting Ghana. But what do Africans get in return? Lies, division, and disrespect from the very people preaching Pan-African unity. Some even try to dominate or demean the local communities they claim to reconnect with. Take this one guy, originally from Zambia but raised in Ghana. He talks about how welcome he and his family were, yet he lives in the US, not Ghana or Zambia. This isn't just abstract criticism. It hits home. My own children, born here, still face slurs and discrimination. So yes, we have to defend ourselves. The reality? People like Akon and Dr. Ericana preach about Africans in the diaspora investing back in the continent. Yet they live comfortably in Atlanta, while others take the real financial risk in Africa.
Why?
Because Africa, for all its promise, isn't safe or convenient enough for them. Even if Akon could make it in Senegal, he won't. He chooses the US, where the opportunity is real and reliable. Dr. Umar, another vocal Pan-Africanist, talks constantly about uplifting Africa, yet he too stays outside the continent because money doesn't flow the same way there. Cash App and PayPal don't work in most African countries. At the end of the day, a lot of the Pan-African movement's loudest voices are, frankly, frauds. You can see it in Akon. His personal life contradicts everything he preaches. A suspended license, failed marriage, faltering business ventures, and stalled projects, all while spouting grand messages about Africa. When you confront him about the missing results, there's always an excuse. Words and reality, in this case, could not be further apart. Investors put their faith and money into Akon City. And what happened? The Senegalese government seized the property.
Why?
Because everything he touches seems destined to fail. Every project, every promise, every plan down bad. Meanwhile, here's the same man who's been throwing shade at Black Americans, saying artists here are too caught up in drugs, while African entertainers are supposedly superior. Yet, ironically, he built his own career by leaning heavily on Black American culture. He had to be around Black Americans, absorb the scene, and ride their platform to get recognition. Once he blew up, he relied on their support, but when it came time to stand on his own, the cracks appeared. He can't succeed solo. He can't operate without Black Americans, the diaspora, or even China. He grifts, he stumbles, he struggles. He can't even maintain a driver's license or keep his marriage intact. Fake jewelry, dusty appearances, embarrassing performances abroad, like in India, where things went south mid-show. Now in his 50s, he's still struggling, and it begs the question, why? This pattern is not unique to him. Many so-called Pan-African voices shout at Black Americans from the comfort of US cities, claiming they should return to Africa, yet they themselves will not step foot on the continent for real.
Why?
Because the reality is harsh. Opportunities are limited, expectations are high, and people often come asking for money constantly. Most of them can't survive there without being dependent, and they hate that reality. It's the plain truth. A lot of these loud Pan-African voices are living in denial. On the surface, they speak with passion and conviction, advocating for Black Americans to go back to Africa, to invest, to reconnect with their roots. The rhetoric is inspiring, even compelling. But when you look closer, the reality tells a very different story. Almost every African who preaches this message has left Africa themselves, for a reason. There's always a practical, often inconvenient truth lurking beneath the ideology. It's easy to tell others to return to the continent, to rally them behind ideals of heritage and unity, when you yourself are comfortably settled elsewhere, insulated from the challenges that await those who actually make the move. Take Akon, for example. He left Senegal for St. Louis because the real opportunities weren't there. He had ambitions, sure, But Africa is not a guaranteed stage for success, and his experience reflects that. In Senegal, the infrastructure, financial systems, and opportunities weren't conducive to the kind of growth he wanted. When he left, it wasn't abandonment, it was necessity. But instead of acknowledging the real challenges of building in Africa, he continued to speak as if success was merely a matter of desire or vision. That disconnect between rhetoric and reality is where credibility begins to erode. Akon tried again in Uganda, attempting to build bridges with Museveni and secure land for his projects. He made promises, outlined ambitious plans, and presented himself as a visionary ready to transform communities. But people on the ground saw through the excuses. They noticed the overpromises, the lack of tangible progress, and the pattern of failed follow-through. As a result, his reputation crumbled. Word travels fast, and in tight-knit communities, reliability and trust are everything. Once lost, they're nearly impossible to regain. Akon burned bridges in Africa, and it wasn't just isolated to Uganda. His credibility in the diaspora is equally shaky because the same contradictions, big promises, small results, follow him wherever he goes. And then there's his music career. Let's be honest, it was never particularly strong. Those little auto-tune tracks he pushed, they didn't leave a lasting impact. They were, in every sense, down bad, dusty, and forgettable. Critics and fans alike have pointed this out for years. For all the hype, the reality of his artistry didn't match the confidence of his messaging. It's one thing to speak about Pan-African pride and entrepreneurship. It's another to deliver cultural contributions that resonate and endure. In Akon's case, the dissonance between persona and product is stark. And yes, I know that stings for fans or supporters, but facts don't care about feelings. Truth is truth, whether it's flattering or not. But the significance of Akon's story goes beyond him as an individual. This isn't just about a failed entrepreneur or a middling musician. It's a cautionary tale for the Pan-African scene as a whole. Talk is cheap, and action is everything. You can preach responsibility, call for investment, and speak endlessly about returning to Africa, but if your words aren't backed by measurable results, the credibility of your message is zero. People will see through performative advocacy, and the gap between rhetoric and reality will become glaringly obvious. Over time, the community becomes wary, skeptical, and even cynical of grand statements that lack foundation. Moreover, the lesson extends to the broader dynamic between the diaspora and the continent. Many of the loudest voices in Pan-Africanism come from outside Africa, often settled comfortably in the West. They speak passionately about the need for unity, investment, and return, but they themselves have left or never truly lived in Africa in a sustained, impactful way. This creates a paradox. The people advocating for systemic engagement are often the least engaged themselves. They become symbols of aspiration rather than examples of achievement. Their words can inspire, yes, but without follow-through, they risk undermining the very movement they claim to champion. Akon's trajectory also illustrates the consequences of overreaching without infrastructure. Africa is not an easy playground for ambition. It's a complex ecosystem with political, economic, and cultural variables that must be navigated thoughtfully. When people fail to understand or respect these realities, it's not just personal failure, it's a loss for the communities they aim to serve. Projects collapse, trust erodes, and future collaboration becomes difficult. That's why the story of Akon is so instructive. It's a reminder that vision alone is insufficient. Execution, consistency, and accountability matter far more than lofty declarations or social media rhetoric. At the end of the day, this tale of unmet promises, failed projects, and unfulfilled potential is not merely gossip or entertainment. It is a mirror for the community. It shows that in Pan-African advocacy, results speak louder than words. If your actions do not match your rhetoric, the truth will inevitably catch up with you. And when it does, the cost isn't just personal embarrassment. It affects credibility, influence, and the ability to mobilize others effectively. So yes, Akon's story stings. It's uncomfortable to admit, especially if you've admired him or shared his message. But it's a reality that must be confronted. It's a call for honesty, accountability, and a grounded approach to Pan-Africanism. One where ambition meets capability, where ideals are paired with tangible results, and where advocacy is matched with action. This isn't just a critique, it's a roadmap. Words inspire, but actions transform. Let Akon's journey be a lesson to anyone seeking to influence the Pan-African narrative. Speak boldly, yes, but deliver boldly, too. Because in the end, the community remembers deeds far more than declarations. And with that, we close another episode of Celebrity Junk. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, and remember, talk is cheap, action is everything. We're out.